Welcome. We will begin now. Can I please request those who are standing to take their seats as quickly as possible? Wonderful. नहीं कॉलम एक्चुअली Ma'am, shall we begin? Yes? Okay. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty members, scholars, students of various programs, and our distinguished guests. Thank you for joining us. A very warm welcome to all of you, and my regards to all the dignitaries at and off the dais. We are truly delighted to have you with us today for this special event. Today, we are graced with the presence of a speaker whose expertise, insight, and dedication to understanding human mind is beyond measures. We are really, truly grateful for Dr. Salman Akhtar Sir, distinguished psychoanalyst, eminent academician, and poet with rich legacy, has joined us. We are more than thankful for his presence today. Our guest speaker has dedicated his career in working with psychoanalysis and has made intersection between psychiatry and arts such an interesting and eminent speaker with us. We are very, very truly grateful for Sir's presence over here. Today, we are here to explore a deep human experience that affects millions of people around the world, self-loathing. The topic of today's lecture was suggested by Sir, and we at IBHAS and thought that it is apt for deliberation, and our scholars and our students will benefit most from this topic. Self-loathing, origin, dynamics, and treatment. We will hear from Sir, reflect and hopefully walk away with not just greater understanding of self-loathing, but also a renewed sense of empathy for ourselves and others. Without further delay, I would like to introduce and invite Professor Dr. Kalpana Srivastav Madam to give her welcome address. To introduce Professor Dr. Kalpana Srivastav Ma'am is Director, Amity Institute of Behavioral Health and Allied Sciences, retired scientist G from DRDO, Department of Psychiatry, AFMC, Pune. She has PhD from Central Institute of Psychiatry and has completed 22 major projects from DRDO, DGSS, WHO, AFMRC, and has been a pioneer in developing telemental health app, Manas, for positive mental health. She has been advisor to various government and non-government organizations. Ma'am has numerous publications, more than 3,000 citations, numerous book chapters. She is recipient of Chief of Army Commendation for meritorious service in armed forces, recipient of various other awards, including Lifetime Achievement Award, Shantiniketan Mental Health Award, Colonel Kripal Singh Award, and few international awards. She is also president for Association of Industrial Psychiatry of India and vice president of Clinical Psychology Society of India. We welcome you, ma'am, to deliver your welcome address. A big round of applause to welcome ma'am, please.
Very good morning, everyone. It is an absolute honor to stand in front of you, especially for this gathering of the event today. On behalf of the Amity Institute of Behavioral Health and Allied Sciences, Amity University AUP campus, I really feel grateful that we are able to make this event possible and happening today. I would like to express sincere gratitude to our respected founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir, whose visionary leadership continues to transform the global learning environment. Mental health initiatives are very close to his heart, and he has a dream of transforming India as a developed nation by 2047. My sincere gratitude to our Chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan, whose dynamic approach and leadership fosters growth and newer initiatives to instill success and happiness among students. I take this opportunity to welcome and thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla. She is going to be attending the session online for her unwavering support in facilitating such events and strengthening academic curiosity among the students. I welcome Dr. S.K. Srivastava, Vice President AFDD, Advisor at FPO, and the mentor of Abbas, who has been always a supportive figure in any kind of venture or initiative. I also take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Jayanti Pujari, Dean of Rehabilitation Sciences, who leaves no stone unturned to come forward to help us and facilitate any such new happening initiatives. I welcome all the distinguished faculty, deans, HOIs, and above all, my dear students who are present in the audience, especially to fathom the depth of his conversation, his dialogue, his intonations, and I really feel that is going to be actually a pearl of wisdom falling into ears about the psychoanalysis. It is both a privilege and pleasure to introduce distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Salman Akhtar, a name that needs no introduction in the world of psychoanalysis. I will attempt the impossible. I make an attempt to introduce him as an academician par excellence and also whose work speaks for itself. Dr. Akhtar is an internationally renowned psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, writer, and a poet. He wears many hats. He served as a professor emeritus of psychiatry and human behavior at Jefferson's Medical College, Philadelphia. Dr. Akhtar is a celebrated author and a poet with an extraordinary body of work. He's exceedingly well published with over 400 papers, including 110 books as an author, and edited these books. His contributions to psychoanalysis have been recognized worldwide with invited lectures in over 40 countries and editorial roles in numerous prestigious journals. His books have been translated into many international languages, and his outstanding contributions in the field have earned him enormous accolades, including the highly prestigious award, which is for the distinguished contribution in psychoanalysis, which is a Sigoni Award. Am I right, sir? This is being pronounced as Sigoni. I checked it. There was only given for the few psychoanalysts world over who have been having an extraordinary contribution to psychoanalysis. His literary and academic brilliance is huge to be mentioned in few lines. His poetry, much like his clinical work, resonates with depth, sensitivity, and a profound understanding of the human condition. Today, Dr. Akhtar will be speaking on self-loathing origins, dynamics, and treatment, a deeply niche, deeply intricate, yet often overlooked topic. At its core, self-loathing is an intense feeling of self-hatred or dissatisfaction. I would not like to dwell on this in detail. You must hear from the master only to talk about this. Dr. Akhtar's teachings have guided generations of clinicians, and his lectures delivered with his signature warmth and wit, which you're going to experience soon, have left lasting impressions worldwide. He has a very rich legacy to follow, to say the least. Today, we have the rare privilege of hearing from a thinker who bridges cultures, disciplines, and human experiences with unparalleled eloquence and wisdom. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the brilliant psychoanalyst, academician, and a poet, Dr. Salman Akhtar. Thank you.
With this, that's why it's yeah. Good. Just
थोड़ा वॉल्यूम एडजस्ट करना पड़ेगा. It's too noisy. Okay. All right. Now this too noisy. Excuse me. इसका वॉल्यूम तुम थोड़ा वॉल्यूम कम करा दें. इसका वॉल्यूम बहुत ज्यादा है. Okay. The first thing I want to say is, please be quiet. Obviously, they're not listening. Please be quiet. If you have important things to talk, I think you'll have plenty of opportunity. You know, you can talk at 12:30, 1, 2, 4:30, 6, tomorrow, next Thursday. इसी वक्त ये बातें करना जरूरी क्यों है? बेबी, ये बंद कर दें आप इतनी बातें. सीरियस बात हो रही. Because I'm going to work seriously with you and I expect the same amount of seriousness from you. Very simple. Okay. इनको बोलिए थोड़ा शोर कम मचाएं.
Students, please maintain silence and settle down and close the door of the auditorium on the top floor. No sound, please.
I'll wait to speak before when you have finished. Okay.
Settle down, everybody. No noise, please.
All right. There's this man. He's a couple years old. There's this man. He's a couple years older than me. He's white. He's Jewish. And a very accomplished. I'm seeing him in psychotherapy twice a week. He has been working on a project, an enormous amount of money. You think it should be a little higher volume? Okay. थोड़ा सा बढ़ा दीजिए. He's been working on a project which would, if it succeeds, would get him about $750,000, $750,000 for the benefit of a school which is predominantly and perhaps almost exclusively attended by poor black children. He is obviously a good man. He's white, he's Jewish, he's a couple years older than me, and he's working through some government agencies to obtain a grant, a big grant, which would change the fate of this little school for black children. One day, he comes to my office, sits down, and he's beaming with joy. And he says, you know what? That grant came through. And after our session, I'm going to walk and to such and such building. And I knew the building, which is where this government office was located. And they will hand me the check. $750,000 is an enormous amount of money, which then he says, I will give to this school. He pauses and then he says, you know, I like doing good things for people. Then he pauses and makes a very bad face like this. What kind of a stupid sentence I said? I like doing good things for people? What bullshit is this? Who talks like this? This is so horrible. I was quite struck by this shift. The fact is, he had done a good thing. The fact is that he knew that he had done a good thing. And yet, he couldn't handle acknowledging to himself and to me that he had done a good thing. So I said the following. I said, did you notice something happened inside of you? When you said that you're a person who likes doing good for others, I was in complete empathy with you and agreement with you. And then suddenly something happened inside of you, which led you to start mocking yourself. Why? Why? We can get into this case in much deeper way. But this is the kind of thing we are going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about to you is a lot of people and a lot of good people do not know that they are good. They think they are bad. Unfortunately, a lot of bad people think that they are good. वो नेता में चले जाते हैं पॉलिटिक्स में. So that's a different field. वो मेरी field नहीं. See, it's a very interesting and impressive phenomenon. How many people who actually are good do not feel good. Do not feel good about themselves and have rather low opinion and a striking lack of de-linkage between what they are and what they feel. A lot of people, hopefully not many in this audience, hate themselves, criticize themselves, dislike themselves, mock themselves, humiliate themselves, do not consider themselves deserving of love, deserving of accolades, deserving of compliments, deserving of success. Why? Now, fascinatingly, there is this structure called PEP-Web, which is an electronic compendium of psychoanalytic literature, and close to 150,000 papers are there, and about 125 books, full texts, and the literature going from 1895 till today, 100 years of psychoanalytic literature. So, like a student, like a researcher, I typed self-loathing, 0. There's no paper with the word self-loathing in its title. So I changed it to self-hatred, 3 papers. 3 papers in 100 years. Why? Why is there no literature? Why it's actually quite a common clinical phenomenon. So I was very intrigued. So, when a child does not have a mother, the child has to become its own mother. So when I couldn't find the literature, I had to write it because I wanted to read it. I wrote a dictionary of psychoanalysis. Some of you might have seen it. A big dictionary, not edited book. I wrote it. 1800 pages with hand. Because I wanted that goddamn dictionary. ताली पे जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, बीवी से पूछिए. So, नतीजे के तौर पे, I wrote that dictionary because I wanted that dictionary. Same way, I wrote this paper on self-loathing because there was no such paper and it had to be written. As I began reading, now you will say, what were you reading if there only no paper? But you have to read between the lines. Because sometimes it is condensed in the literature of guilt. Sometimes it's condensed in the literature of need for punishment. Sometimes it's condensed and implicit in the literature of masochism, and so on and so forth. And it is not necessary at all for a psychoanalyst to learn only from psychoanalysis. One can read outside literature, poetry, movies, theater, and other forms of psychology, anthropology, sociology, and such. So bit by bit, I collected some information. And then I put in my own clinical experience and my own thoughts about this matter. So what turned out was that self-loathing, self-hatred is a complex matter. It's a matter which is deeply anchored in the character. It has certain affects and emotions associated with it. It has certain cognitions, thoughts and ways of thinking associated with it. It has certain disturbance in one's values and ideals. And it has then, as a result, some disturbances of behavior. Within the affect or emotional aspects are basically anhedonia, not being able to have fun. Not being able to have fun. You know. And what is life without fun? What is life without fun? Freud had said, who was a rather stoic and perhaps not a pleasant person. He has said that the two most important things in life are love and work. Winnicott added play, but most people misunderstand. They put it work, love, and play. Now, work and love in the mode of play. Think about it. Sit in front of a chessboard, pick up a piece of chess, ask yourself a question. Ask yourself a question. Do I have a king of a country in my hand? And your answer is yes. Now put it down and pick it up with the other hand. Do I have a piece of wood or plastic or ivory that has been cut in a certain shape and sells for a certain amount of money? The answer is yes. Now put it down, don't touch it. And ask yourself a third question. What percentage of this thing is a king? And what percentage of this thing is a piece of wood? The answer is not 50-50. The answer is 100 and 100. This is the secret of living. This is the secret of living. This is the secret of being a patient in psychotherapy. This is the secret of being a therapist. What does that mean? It means, is life important? Of course. Is life absurd? Of course. I have bad news for you. Nobody is getting out of this world alive. All of you will be dead. You know, I have about 560 weekends left. You guys have about 48,000. But that doesn't mean that you will not run out of those 48,000. One day you are dead. But That doesn't mean that you should not have enthusiasm and read and do things and, get a job, make money, publish. That's also important. It's king also and it's piece of wood also. Both. Both. That's why Winnicott's idea of play subsumes love and work. Love while understanding it's a game. That has to be played well, but it's a game. Work, understanding, that's a game, but it has to be played well. Okay. Behaviorally, affectively, the biggest thing is anhedonia. Feelings of not having pleasure, sometimes crying, not being enthusiastic about anything, not having passion in life, a chronic low-grade depressive mood. One. Two, in terms of behavior, not taking good care of oneself, not going to a doctor, not taking the medications one is prescribed, if one is prescribed, not ever doing any exercise, eating junk food, drinking too much, smoking cigarettes, and so on and so forth. Not taking good care, not considering oneself worthwhile. Two, third, in terms of cognition, two very important things. One, there's a fantasy in these people that there's something fundamentally wrong with them. No matter how educated they become, no matter how accomplished they become, no matter how morally solid they become, they feel there's a defect in them. That's one. Second is that they have a exalted view of what normalcy is. They think that normal people are cool. Normal people are not cool, they're boring. And normal life comes with some misery. A normal person is not always peaceful or happy. There are only two kinds of people who are peaceful. The one who are not born and then who are dead. They have no problem as far as I know. I don't know, right? As far as I know, they have no problem. When you're living, you have intrapsychic conflicts, you have reality conflicts. Every day. Every day. I remember when I started my own analysis, I had a fantasy. I had a fantasy that I was a restless river, and one day, at the end, I'll become a lake. And peaceful and like this. What I did not realize, do you understand this fantasy? Do you understand this fantasy? What I did not realize, that I had been a lake when I was a baby. And I was looking for what had eluded from my hand again in future. Why? उसके लिए कोई दारू पी के बताएंगे. Now, so this is the field we are talking about. Why is it that people hate themselves, cannot have fun, have no passion, no joy, do not take care of themselves, and think that others are all fine, well, others also not fine, and so on and so forth. Now what happens is that this kind of syndrome or this kind of condition arises from many sources. 4 sources. Much better than PowerPoint, right? God made PowerPoint. 4 sources. PowerPoint दिखा दो तो लोग समझते हैं बात सच है. This is a very common mistake. People think, if you are not using PowerPoint, people think you are just making this up. If you put in PowerPoint, they say, देख लो इसको यार, ये तो बड़ी important चीज. बच्चों की बात है. There are 4 sources of origin of self-loathing. And just like life is all mixed up, these 4 sources are not so categorically separate. In some of them, 1 and 3 may coexist, 2 and 4 may coexist, 1 and 4 may coexist, and so on and so forth. But there are 4 sources. The first kind of self-loathing has to do what I call primal self-loathing. Primal, Primal. गलत स्पेलिंग लिख ली तो हो जाएगा पीरामल, ऐसा कोई आदमी नहीं है. Primal self-loathing. Why choose the word primal instead of primary? The reason for the choice, I think, in my case, I wrote this, is to emphasize two aspects. One aspect is it begins extremely early. Even before the person can think about themselves, it has become in a silent way, which will then become mentalized later. But it has, the seed of it has been sown, even before the child can think. And we'll talk why. Second reason is feeling to it. It is as if it is in the mind, or is it in the body? Is it I'm a bad person, or I am bad? Urdu, I don't know how many people you know Urdu. There is a ghazal that being sung by Abida Parveen, who is a great singer. In that ghazal there is a sher. ऐ इश्क बता कुछ तू ही पता, ऐ इश्क बता कुछ तू ही पता, अब तक ये मुअम्मा हल न हुआ. मुअम्मा मीन्स रिडल, पहेली. ऐ इश्क बता कुछ तू ही पता, अब तक ये मुअम्मा हल न हुआ. हम में है दिले बेताब नेहा, इस रेस्टलेस हार्ट इज इनसाइड ऑफ मी. हम में है दिले बेताब नेहा, या आप दिले बेताब हैं? Or am I, is there a restless heart inside of me? Or am I the goddamn restless heart myself? That is the primal self-loathing. हम में है दिले बेताब नेहा, या आप दिले बेताब हैं? ढूंढोगे हमें मुल्कों मुल्कों. So, this kind of self-hatred begins with being hated by one's mother. Now, as we become doctors, psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, we must leave one sentence behind forever. And that sentence is, mothers love their children. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Good enough mothers, good mothers, love their children. Children can get love from their mothers if they are fortunate. And unconditional love, मेरे ख्याल से 6 महीने 7 महीने, उसके बाद गया. That lake is gone. I'm not going to become a lake again. So, some children, some babies are hated from the day they are born. To really get the flavor of this, please read a paper. It's written in 1929. Now, sometimes you tell some young person, read this paper in when was it written? 1929. They make a face, as if I told them something, बहुत बुरी बात बता दी मैंने. कहते हैं इतना पुराना, तो फिर उनसे कहना कि गीता से थोड़ा कम पुराना है. तो गीता भी पढ़ना छोड़ दीजिए. पुराने से क्या हुआ? पुराना होता है सेल फोन. इंसान का नेचर तो ऐसे नहीं होता. It's a remarkable paper, 1929, written by one of the early Hungarian pupils of Sigmund Freud, whose name was Sándor Ferenczi. F-E-R-E, F as in Frank, E-R-E-N-C-Z-I, Ferenczi. The paper is called The Unwelcome Child and His Death Instinct. अभी his को माफ कर देते हैं, ये सब तो चलता है. Because it applies to her also. The unwelcome child and his death instinct. When a child is hated, and it happens. Obviously it happens. A baby is hated by the mother. Now, the fact is, most of you look so young, most of you don't have children, but you have been children. Maybe many of you will have children one day. a little blip of hatred, annoyance, anger, hatred, even death wishes are completely normal between parents and children. There's no child who has not wished their mother and father dead sometimes when they're pissed off, and there's no father, please, who has not wished the children dead. Of course, that's part of life. We're not talking about this occasional, thing. We're talking about this sustained hatred of the baby that may manifest as active malice or passive aversion and neglect. When this happens, the child is damaged forever. A baby is like a piano. The piano is delivered inside a house. The mother sits and plays the piano. The music comes out. That music is the self. Kuldeep, Jayanti, Ritika. That is the self is the tune. जिसके अंदर piano की quality है, pianist की quality. If the mother hates from the beginning, this goes in the basic core of the self. This goes in the basic core of the self, from which it is very hard to extract. These are people who really, really hate themselves. Many commit suicide. Most don't. That's also an interesting phenomenon. Most self-hating people do not kill themselves, because that will be letting themselves off easily. They are into self-torture. They're into self-suffering, and they're into testing you. What are you going to do? You are sitting here and seeing how I hate myself. Now what? Are you joining me in this? Do you also hate me? If you don't hate me, what's wrong with you? And if you do hate me, what the hell am I doing here? Do you see? This kind of primal self-hatred. I had a patient who was born 9 months and 8 days after the mother's wedding. 9 days, then 8 days, 9 months. That means the mother got pregnant on the Hindi filmon ki Sohag Raat. The mother hated her. Fascinatingly, it was not the baby who asked to be born. Like, I didn't ask to be born. I don't know about you. I was like a stupid little soul, and God kicked me like this. He said, go, become a doctor. I said, okay. What could I do? What could I do? He sent me, so अब तो क्रिकेट के मैदान में भेज दिया उन्होंने, तो अब तो खेलना है. So the mother hated her, thinking that this pregnancy and this girl has spoiled her life. She had not done anything. The neglect was so profound. At age 5, she has memories that the mother will give $5 and say, go get a haircut. 5 साल की बच्ची अकेली जाके बाल कटवाने जा रही. एक example. Another, every time she'll come from a school, the mother would be lying on a sofa watching TV. And the child will enter from the school. The mother says, go away. She'll go in the kitchen. There was an African American maid who was good to her. That's what saved her. And that's why she came in treatment with me, this white woman with the brown skin, which is a compromise of white and black. She lived an abjectly self-depriving life. She had a nice job. She had money from the family. But she had maybe 2 change of clothes. She'll wash this one, wear this one, wear this one, wash this one. Smoked some 30, 40 cigarettes a day. Had been wildly promiscuous in youth, which had now died away. When she came to see me, she was like 45 years, 50 years old. And She had been pushed into treatment by an aunt who was very concerned about her, that she was not eating, she was, being very personally not a good hygiene, and the apartment where she lived was a mess. So the aunt pushed her to seek treatment. In the first session, she's sitting. I'm talking with her, getting some history, getting to know her. She said, there's no point our talking because I've already bought a gun and I bought bullets and I'm going to kill myself. When I leave here, by 6 p.m., I'll be dead. What do you do? What do you do? So I said, yes, I think you're right. There's no point continuing this conversation if your life is in so much danger. So I had taken her phone number and address and I said, give me your aunt's phone number or your aunt's address. I'll call her. She'll go to your house, remove the gun. You sit in the waiting room. I'll have my secretary sit with you. I have another patient to see. I'll finish seeing the patient. Then I will re-see you and then decide whether you need to be hospitalized or whether you need to, you can be treated as an outpatient. Patient got furious. Who do you think you are? Policeman? What right do you have asking me this? I'm not giving you any further information. I said, I need the key of your apartment and the phone number of your aunt. She said, I'm not giving. She got up to leave. I said, look, everybody gets 10 candles worth of life. 8 have gone off in your heart. 2 candles are left that are still burning, and the wind is very strong. So you came, you put those 2 candles in my heart. Now it's my job to protect. You leave the office, I'll call the police right away. And I have your address, police will be waiting for you there, and the government gives me authority to lock you up for 72 hours. Then let the judge decide. क्योंकि देखिए बेबी, और लड़कों से भी ये बात कर रहा हूं, ये नहीं कि सिर्फ लड़कियों से. देखिए, क्या है, psychotherapy does not mean being sweet. If you're sweet, that's okay. वो तो free में आ गया. Psychotherapy means dealing with the person's problem in a methodical fashion. Just like surgery. If any of you have friends who are surgeons, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, fathers and such, you know that there are many kinds of surgeries. Some very delicate and some were orthopedic surgery. With a chainsaw, they cut the bone, they break the bone with a hammer. Same thing in psychotherapy. Sometimes you have to do it this way. So I was able to save her life, and then obviously she worked with me for a long time. But in all honesty, she did not get very much better. Because the damage was so strong. You see, not everything is curable. Please understand. छोटी चीजें curable नहीं होती हैं. I don't think nail biting is a curable thing. You can be in analysis for 8 years. Nail biting is not curable. Chronic lateness is not curable. India में तो is considered normal, तो इसमें India में तो इलाज की भी जरूरत नहीं है. Chronic lateness, that's not a curable symptom. So, primal self-loathing, that's one. Second, shame-related self-loathing. Now, the shame-related can be because of belonging to a particular disenfranchised and marginalized minority. In some cultures, LGBT people are looked down upon. So then they can internalize that. In some cultures, caste system, a lower caste system. In some places, Muslims. In some places, Jews. In some places, people find ways to hate. So one etiology of shame-related poverty, major congenital defect, shame-related self-loathing has to do with internalizing other people's attitude. Now here is an important reminder. Freud had said anatomy is destiny. Anatomy is destiny. Freud was wrong. Freud was wrong. Anatomy is not destiny. You could have been born without an arm. But if your mother loved you, if your father loved you, if they had confidence in you and your ability, and they treated you with tenderness and respect as a child, you have one arm and still be a decent, confident person. It's not anatomy that is destiny. It is how the society and the family treats the anatomy that creates destiny. One exception to this, and that is the shame of the motherless child. The shame of the motherless child. We are mammals. मुझसे भी पूछ लीजिए जो प्रॉब्लम है उसके बारे में. I can also give in some input. Now, the shame of the motherless child. We are mammals. We are mammals. Which means God, if you don't believe in God, nature has promised us a mother. And when there's a child who's 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, his biological mother dies. That is like not having a nose, not having an ear, not having an arm. And that can create, especially by father's love, by older siblings' love, by an aunt's love, etc., especially if the damage has been more in the system, it can create a profound sense of shame, and because of shame, hatred of oneself. The shame of the motherless child. Shakespeare says, every man owes God a debt. Every man owes God a debt. I say, every God owes man a mother. I mean, just imagine, suppose you were a parrot. Only people like us can think like this. Suppose you were a parrot, and pretty green and nice beak. But let's suppose you had no wings. How would you feel? Horrible. Just try to imagine yourself being a wingless parrot. That's what a child is without the mother. The mother is her wings. Primal self-loathing, shame-based self-loathing. Third, guilt-based. A child who's beaten, a child who's abused. Back to my patient who's a very philanthropic man. When he was a little boy, he had an older brother, 6 years older. And the older brother not only teased him, pinched him, stole things from him, but sexually abused him, asking the younger brother to suck his penis. The boy was so humiliated and frightened. He will go to his mother. I asked him in the beginning sessions, did you tell your mother? Always a question to ask from somebody who's sexually abused. So I said, did you tell your mother? He says, I tried to. So I said, and what did she say? What did the mother say? No, come. You know, Bobby, he has a heart of gold. All older brothers are like this. They, bother younger brother, but he loves you. He doesn't. Bobby didn't love him. That was bullshit. Right? Bullshit. Years later in treatment, with my encouragement, now the patient was 73, and this happened many years ago, and the brother who's 79, my patient writes an email to him. They live very far away. You did this to me, you did this to me, you did this to me. All I'm asking is that you acknowledge it and apologize. What does the brother write? Patient comes next session. He has a paper in his hand. He says, take a look. This is the email from him. I printed. I read. The email says, dear, let's say John. Dear John, I read your long email and was saddened by it. Because you're now 73 years old and you're still thinking about things that may or may not have happened. May not. That may or may not have happened. And then what does he say? I am your older brother, and I always wish good for you. I'm sorry that you're in turmoil, but I will pray on your soul. That's the letter. So the patient gives it to me. I see. I said, yeah, not satisfactory. Patient says, no, you didn't read it properly. So I read it again. I said, yeah, it's disappointing because he's still partly denying. He said, no, he'll show me. And he puts his finger here. And the word pray is spelled as P-R-E-Y. P-R-E-Y. I shall pray on your soul. Do you see? The repressed exerts a continuous pressure in the upward direction of consciousness. Now, obviously, this boy grows. He not only has shame at being weak and small and beaten by his brother and made to perform fidelity on the brother, but also rage at the mother for denying what was going on. And the father was busy, he didn't know anything. That rage, all religions, all societies, all families says, don't hate your mother. She's your mother. Mata Shri. Ye Mata Shri thi hai. Now that hate, the child swallows because of the superego, societal, family pressures, and what is called moral defense. Rather than thinking my mother was bad, he feels I am somehow defective and bad. In this person, this 73-year-old white Jewish philanthropist man, the horrible amount of self-loathing was largely because of shame and guilt. Guilt at hating the mother. So now we have three types. One, primal, one, shame, one, guilt. Then there's a fourth one, remorse. Now, remorse is not the same thing as guilt. Guilt is a dysphoric emotion that stirs up in us when we do or want to do. That, Smita? Guilt is a dysphoric emotion that stirs up in us when we do or want to do things that are prohibited. If your family taught you not to eat beef, and you eat beef, you'll feel a pang of something wrong inside. That emotion is called guilt. Remorse is not that. Remorse is, last night I had a dinner at a friend's house, but I feel a little remorse because I think I got myself invited. I don't think she was in a mood to invite me. मैंने उनसे कहा मैं हूँ दिल्ली में, क्या कर रही हैं, आपसे मिलने का बहुत शौक है, थोड़ा खाना वाना खा लेंगे, एक ड्रिंक पी लेंगे आपके साथ. तो अब बेचारी क्या करती, खाने बुला लिया उसने. मुझे अभी तक हो रही रिमोर्स. This is called remorse. Remorse means hurting somebody you love, you have concern for, and then you realize that you have messed them up. क्योंकि वो भी कहने लगी, अच्छा तो फिर कितने बजे खाना लगाएं? मैंने कहा ये बहुत खतरनाक खाना है. इतनी वाइन पी थी, उसमें इतनी बची थी, कहते थोड़ी और ले ले. मैं कहा इतनी जल्दी क्या है? तो पता चल ये तो मेरी गलती थी, उनकी कोई गलती थोड़ी थी. So remorse means the realization that one has damaged others. And genuine remorse only appears in people in middle age, especially about one's children. That we didn't help our children in the way we should have. Hopefully, it's minor, but sometimes it can be big. If one has abandoned one's children, if one has messed up one's children. If you have seen the movie called $1 Million Baby, in that Clint Eastwood is repeatedly sitting in the church. And you see, soon before he goes to the church, there's a letter that arrives from his daughter, which he had written and comes back unopened. That was the hint. Most likely, in drinking, in a drunk state, he had sexually touched his daughter. That's my reconstruction. And therefore, he was so guilty. That's why he was helping the boxer young girl. And that's why he was willing to murder her in order to help. This time he said, I'll do anything to be helpful, including murder. It's a remarkable movie. If you haven't seen it, please see it. $1 Million Baby. Now, with this kind of condition, we get to treatment. In the treatment, first and foremost, we have to let the patient know. We have to empathize and validate that wrong things have happened. We have to provide a validation. Yes, when you used to come from a school and you were 7 years old, 8 years old, and your mother would shush you away, that was a very unfortunate and unfair, in fact, cruel thing. And it has affected you very badly. We have to validate it. Just the way we tell in medicine, this cholesterol level is very high. It's not good. Same thing here, no difference. First is empathy and validation. Second is bridging. Bridging the patient's avowed and consciously held and insistent view of themselves being bad, with an occasional slippage in their own account that they are not so bad. I have a physician, a woman physician in psychotherapy. She hates herself. But from time to time she mentions to me, I don't know why my patients like me so much. Then another thing she says, my office superintendent, she is so good to me, she adores me. She's crazy. So you collect like a stamp collector, bit by bit. You collect. So one day, she's saying something. Now this is conscious. Please notice, there's no unconscious. I'll get to the unconscious. This is the conscious stuff. I'm bad, I'm horrible, I'm an imposter, I'm no good. Even as a doctor, I'm no good. I'm just pretending to be a doctor. I don't know why my patients love me so much. My patients wouldn't go to anybody. My office superintendent loves me. वो भी है, वो भी conscious है, ये भी conscious. इसको link करना is called bridging intervention. Here, we are not talking of unconscious. We're talking of conscious. The patient is aware of this, but they have not put it together. So you can say something like this, it's interesting. I know you hate yourself. And I know you have very low opinion of yourself. But unless you have a low opinion of your patients, which I doubt, or of this office superintendent, you are also aware that there's some very good things about you. That's enough. ये कह देना काफी है. Okay, so now we got validation and empathy, bridging. Third, unmasking and interpreting the unconscious defenses against one's goodness. The man that I described is walking on a boardwalk near an ocean. There's a volleyball game going on, which is most likely being played by high school students, 16, 17 years old. Boys on one side, girls on the other side. Boys on one side, girls on the other side. They are on the beach next to an ocean. It is summer. The girls are dressed in swimming suits and bikinis. The patient watches. Next day, he's in my office and he says the following. He describes this. He says, yesterday, something very strange happened. I said, what happened? He says, I was going such and such place and I was on this boardwalk next to the ocean and there was a volleyball game. Girls and boys were playing. And I was looking and I looked at all these girls and their bodies were so beautiful. I got turned on and I wanted to have sex with them. And then next minute, I had such contrition and such feeling of remorse. They are like my grandchildren. They're not even like my children. They're like my grandchildren. how bad I am. And look at these boys. They were just playing volleyball. They were innocent boys, completely clean, and I am a dirty old man. What did I say to him? I said, you know, I can empathize with your sexual greed. I can empathize with your sexual greed. I can also empathize with your remorse. Those two things I can empathize. What remains puzzling to me is your certainty that these boys were so innocent. How did you know? Maybe they were also having the same thoughts. Now, here is an interpretation of the unconscious dissociation of his internal goodness and depositing through projective identification in those boys. Who knows? वो क्या सोच रहे थे लड़के? वो भी उतने ही बदमाश. आपको क्या पता? आपने उनको इतना फरिश्ता कैसे बना दिया? क्योंकि आप अपने अंदर छुपे हुए फरिश्ते से डरते हैं. क्योंकि जब जाते थे अम्मा के पास, मम्मी, Bobby is bothering me. Then you were a farishta. You were a regular child. When you were following your older brother like a puppy, you were a regular child. And that regular child was threatened and endangered. And therefore you cannot handle it inside. It has to be put outside. Please understand, I have had practice now, psychiatry, psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, some 50 years, 51, 55 years. That in those years, 3 patients, this man, there was another young woman, girl, 23 years old. There was a neurologist who was 44 years old, and this current doctor. I love them. I cannot wait to see them. I'm excited when they come for the session. And I am at my best when I'm talking to them. Astute, alert, fine, great, insightful, the best analyst. Why? Why? That's another interesting thing to think. And with all these patients, this initial feeling gradually goes away. This initial feeling of countertransference, goodness, is because my goodness has been exaggerated by the deposit of the patient's goodness that the patient cannot handle within himself or herself. And as you return that goodness to them, your sense of goodness becomes less. Usually 6 weeks to 18 months. This usually lasts from 6 weeks to about 18 months, this excitement. So, validation, number 1, and empathy. Number 2, bridging. Number 3, interpretation of the unconscious defenses against goodness. Number 4, envisioning the improved patient. Having an image. Just like when we have little children, the child may not be walking or the child may not be talking, but he's walking in our eyes and in our expectations. So we throw a rope and child holds that and walks up here. We say, it's okay, mommy will catch you. And the child leaves the coffee table and walks. Because we have created an age-specific, development-specific expectation with love. Same thing, we have to have a vision in our hearts of what the patient can look like when improved. So this woman who wore only 2 clothes, this one or this one, for 2 years, 3 years, she had no other clothes. One day, I'm listening to her and I have a picture in my mind appear. And the picture was straight from B-class movies of Bollywood. The picture is एक ऐसा staircase है, round, एक इधर से आ रहा है, एक इधर से आ रहा है, लाल रंग का कारपेट उस पे लगा हुआ है, उस पे वो काले रंग की स्कर्ट पहने हुए, इतनी लंबी उसमें स्लिट है काले रंग की स्कर्ट पे, हाई हील, बाल खुले हुए, लाल रंग की लिपस्टिक, लाल रंग के लंबे फिंगर नेल्स, म्यूजिक पीछे से बज रही, उससे उतरती हुई है. This is the picture I got in my head. Now, you have to be careful. You have to find out how much of this is you. तो ये staircase जो है, ये तो बॉलीवुड से है, ये अमेरिका में ऐसा कुछ टक्कर नहीं है। ये रेड लिपस्टिक और रेड जो है नेल पॉलिश, ये है मिसेस जॉर्डन से। मिसेस जॉर्डन हमारी किंडरगार्टन की टीचर थी, बड़ी सुंदर लिपस्टिक लगाती थी, उसका ट्रॉमा अभी तक है। अब क्या करें? तो ये भी हमारा है, ये उसका मरीज का नहीं है। म्यूजिक जो बज रही पीछे, मुझे दुनिया वालों शराबी ना समझो, वो भी उसका मतलब नहीं उसका। बट द फैक्ट दैट शी इज बेटर ड्रेस्ड is her hope coming through me. Do you see? Just the better dressed. Specifics don't matter. Specific तो हमारे अपने culture से जुड़ जाएगा. Envisioning how the patient can be better. Here is another example. It may sound very weird, but we are the department of weirdness. If you don't like weird shit, go study business. You're in psychology. That's a job. So, the patient who is a doctor, who said, my patients love me and my office superintendent love me, he has 3 children and he hates one of her child, the oldest one, because he looks like her and blah, blah, blah. Okay. She has dire predictions about him. He's 16 years old, 17 years old. He'll not get into a college. He'll never finish high school. He'll become 40 years old and still living with us. He'll be unemployed. At best, he might go to this 2-year college, which is completely horrible and such. While she, her husband, her father, her mother, they all went to very fine colleges and such. He has dire predictions, including suicide. One day he might even kill himself, and so on. On the other hand, occasionally, here, there, he also lets slip that he's actually a very good student. And his classmates and his teachers think that he's a very well-mannered and very kind child. वो भी है, वो भी काम में जा रहा मेरे. One day, she is going on and on कि मेरा बच्चा जो है कि ये तो तबाह हो जाएगा, ये तो पढ़ेगा नहीं, ये हाई स्कूल भी नहीं खत्म करेगा, ज्यादा even if he finished high school, he might go to this stupid 2-year college that, like intermediate pass or something. He wouldn't even have a college degree and he will be on and on and on. That's my vision of him, she says. I said, I also have a vision of him. She says, like what? I said, your son, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, will be an associate professor of mathematics in University of Michigan. He will live close to the campus and he'll have a girlfriend who will be Japanese and she'll be 12 years older than him. जीवन जीना सहल न जानो, बहुत बड़ी फनकारी है. The patient says, what, how, what did you say? Why did you say such a thing? तो मैंने उसको बोला, मैंने कहा, I don't know. The fact is, I do not know. But if you remain quiet for 2 minutes and let me remain quiet for 2 minutes, I'll think about it and I'll share what my understanding is. He said, okay. After 2 minutes, I said, look, this is my understanding. You were sending him to this bullshit 2-year-old college. You have been to one of the top-notch universities. Your husband has been to other top-notch university. Your father, your mother, everybody. You're sending him to this bullshit place. I send him to University of Michigan, which is in between. I made him associate professor, not assistant professor, not full professor. In between. I made sure he's not in Philadelphia, that he's left, but he's not gone to Los Angeles, San Francisco. He's midway in Michigan. Then, while he is away, I put him close to the campus. He can separate and not separate. And I gave him a Japanese girlfriend because you're white and Jewish and you have driven him up the wall. So he's not going to be able to kiss and sleep and make love with a Jewish woman. So he'll need something different. But his mother hunger will remain, so I made her 12 years older. काम है ना बीबी, काम है. तो अब इसमें I'm showing the vision seemingly of an internal object of the patient. But behind that, I'm also mending her and visioning a better outcome for her. Another time, she's complaining about this boy's college application next year. And she's saying, I want to show it to my brother who's very educated and who writes very well, but I'm afraid he'll criticize us so much that my son will get hurt. What a stupid mother I am. I'm 4 days, I cannot make a decision. I said, yeah, maybe the indecision is a source of conflict and hurts you and lowers your self-esteem. But what you have overlooked is that you are trying to improve your son's college education. That's a good mother. How come you don't do that? Right? Validation, bridging, interpretation of the unconscious goodness, and also envisioning the patient's future without illness, and the use of countertransference, the use of what is evolving inside of us. I could not have treated these patients unless I loved them. It's not possible. It's not possible because they have so much hatred inside of them for their mothers and fathers and for themselves. That will come in transference. I make recommendations to this doctor patient, she never follows. Never follows. That is her way of mockery by compliance. She says, she was constantly criticized as a child by father. Nothing she could do was good. So in effect, she's saying, you thought I was bad? I'll show you how bad I am. Mockery by compliance. So she does the same thing with me. She asks me, what should I do? If ever I tell her what she should do, she'll never do it. You have to bear this countertransference of being rejected, being treated badly. That's part of it. So allow me to end on this story of a bird. There's a bird, I don't know whether it's found in Delhi or not, but it is found in UP, where I grew up. It's called नीलकंठ. दिल्ली में भी होती है. दिल्ली में भी होती है. या होती है या होता है, दोनों होंगे ना. ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि सिर्फ सारी फीमेल हैं. Anyway, so नीलकंठ. Do you know what a नीलकंठ is? अंग्रेजी में बोलते हैं ब्लू जे. नहीं? You don't know. इनको बता दीजिए. नीलकंठ एक चिड़िया होती है जिसका गला she has a collar of deeper blue. It's blue bird, but there's a deeper color around the neck. नीलकंठ. ये चिड़िया क्या है? ये चिड़िया ये है कि एक दिन लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा said कि देखो भाई ये समंदर बहुत गंदा हो गया है. And we have to, this ocean has become very dirty and we have to churn it and bring out shit and dispose it. So लोगों ने करना शुरू किया. तो कुछ टाइटैनिक के टुकड़े मिले, कुछ अमेलिया एयरहार्ट का जहाज मिला, एक दो रेफ्रिजरेटर भी मिले, कुछ बॉलीवुड की पुरानी फिल्मों के प्रिंट्स भी मिले उसमें. Grow up, yaar, have some sense of humor. So now what happens is कि तो देवता सुर और असुर दोनों बैठे हुए हैं. तो सब लोग कहते हैं ये मैं ले लूंगा, ये मैं ले लूंगा. उसके बाद a big bottle of poison appeared, blue colored poison. And there was a pin drop silence, and nobody was willing to take it except Shiva. Shiva said, don't worry, give it to me. And he drank all the poison. And there was a stunned silence. There's a stunned silence, thinking that now Shiva is dead forever. But he didn't die. He kept talking. So people were surprised. How come he drank so much poison? He's not dead. Because Shiva decided to hold the poison in his neck and not let it go to his stomach. And that is why in UP, especially the Kaists, we worship the blue jay, Neelkant. आप हैं, हम हैं. We are also, as psychotherapists, as containing, holding, tolerating other people's badness and suffering. We are also blue jays. We are all Neelkanths of psychotherapy. Thank you. ठीक?
A bigger round of
Sir.
applause, please.
Yes, yes. Yes, I'll sit down.
Thank you so much, sir, for the incredible, insightful, and thought provoking lecture. We will take some questions. If you have questions, please raise your hand and a mic will be handed over to you.
We can also
Volunteers,
take
you-
answers. We can also take answers.
Yes, if you have question and you have your own answers, why not? Let's have some questions on self. Can I request the volunteer to pass the mic? Can I request everyone to please remain seated? We're shortly going to conclude after question and answers.
Nobody will move out of the hall, please.
Can I please request?
All be seated wherever you are.
Can I request the
इसका
volunteer
गाना
who's
था,
asking
इतनी
question
जल्दी
to-
क्या है गोरी साजन के घर जाने की? नहीं?
सर हमारे में पेशेंस
है ना?
कभी कभी थोड़ा कम रहता है.
Yes, please.
So firstly, I would like to really thank you for the incredible lecture.
Yes.
So I am Ashita. I'm currently a clinical psychology trainee. So we do see patients on a regular basis. I have a question with regard to patients who have undergone complex trauma. So patients who have undergone complex trauma. So
What is
say,
the word I didn't get before complex? You said
undergone, have experienced.
who have undergone
Yeah,
complex trauma.
yeah.
Yes.
So, say for example, I have a patient who has gone through certain traumatic experiences in their childhood, which were propagated by not their family members. So, somebody else from outside the family, some abuse happened. Now, they did not have a family environment. They did not have that kind of a experience where they could come and share it with their family. So they never shared it with their family. All this while, they had a good relationship with their family. They never really had any difficulties with their family. So now they enter therapy, and there's a lot of self-loathing. There's a lot of negative perception towards self. There's a lot of difficulties in accepting whatever has happened. But there is anger towards whatever has happened, especially towards the propagator of the trauma, but not towards their family. But it can be seen in very subtle signs, like obviously they were not protected from the family that they were supposed to be protected from. They could not have that safe space with their family. They couldn't go and tell their families. So that has somehow manifested in self-loathing, because now they have internalized everything and they have started feeling maybe they are not good enough as people, right? So to explore these layers in therapy, it and to help them understand that it's okay for them to be angry at their family, especially when they have a good relationship with their family right now, and especially with the idea that in Indian cultures it's not very acceptable to be angry with your parents, right? So how do we sort of help the patient with such a scenario, or how do we help the patient uncover these layers?
See, always, it's working. Always in life, and in any dialogue, we should say yes first and no later. Both things are needed for anybody to grow up. Yes and no. So, first thing to do is to both try to understand why a sexually abused boy or girl doesn't tell their mother, right? The usual reasons are the following. Either the abuser frightened them too much. If you tell your mother, I'll kill all your family, or I'll kill you, something. Or they didn't have enough faith in the mother, that the mother will believe them. when a child goes to the mother and says somebody is touching me wrongly, the mother says no, रंजीत चाचा ऐसा कभी नहीं कर सकते, वो बड़े शरीफ आदमी है. वो शरीफ नहीं है, वो अव्वल दर्जे के हरामी है. So पहली बात, so simple बात ये है कि we have to explore why was the child not able to tell, right? And in that we have to agree with some of their reasoning. हाँ ठीक है, ये तो समझ में आता है, तुमने क्यों नहीं कहा? So unless we explore and agree, then we cannot go to the disagree part. अब disagree part जो है, क्या है कि उसमें you cannot force anybody to do anything. Even a patient, you cannot say, no, you have to talk to your mother about this. No, that's not necessarily important. The first exercise should be write a long letter. Don't send it to your mother, but address to your mother and bring it to me. And we will read it together. But go in great detail, as if you're talking to your mother. Don't send the letter. I'm not asking you to show it to her. Show it to me. But 8-10 पेज का एक चिट्ठी लिखो. और वो लेके आओ and we will read together. So that is a transitional step towards the mind being permitted, even the idea that one could tell mother such and such thing, that would be a intermediary step and such. That would also permit not only the vision of this forthcoming dialogue, but also it will vent some of the emotions. Traitors, but children are more hurt by those who did not rescue them. You know? And that's a very damaging thing. And we have to help that. Now, depending upon the family structure, depending upon the economy, literal economy and emotional economy, but also financial economy. As is this person independent? Can they be independent? And such. We have to see, is this situation, is possible to have, view it as a convergent conflict. मैं माँ को बताऊं तो वो नाराज होगी, ठीक है, नाराज होगी, गुस्सा करेगी, बिलीव नहीं करेगी, फिर मैं कहूंगी ऐसा ही हुआ था. Then maybe she'll cry, and then maybe she'll start looking at me in funny ways, and I'll start looking. This is all compromise. या ये कि माँ मुझे घर से निकाल देगी, या रिश्ता काट देगी. That's a divergent conflict. बताऊं तो माँ है, ना बताऊं तो माँ है, और बताऊं तो माँ नहीं है. So in convergent conflicts, we can help a patient arrive as a healthy compromise. In divergent conflicts, we have to help the patient mourn the loss of one or the other opportunity. So, छोटा सा जवाब है, बाकी बातें फिर.
Thank you so much for your incredible
Yes,
insight.
Can we have a few more questions?
Yes,
Good
please.
afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for the lecture. My name is Dr. Sneha.
I'm having a little difficulty hearing you. Can you hold the mic up? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the lecture. My name is Dr. Sneha. I'm also a medical doctor who's now studying psychology.
Yes.
From this, I had a question that when we talk about self-loathing, it can, from what I think, is that for a person to even seek therapy and work consistently, show up, might be against standing up for themselves. So I assume that there might be a lot of resistance that the person puts forth, even if
I
they
didn't follow. That for the patient to even seek therapy is what? Or could be what?
हाँ, because आपने बोला कि self-loathing में they're not there for themselves, from simple grooming to even taking care of their
Yes,
thought,
yes. And he will not seek treatment. Yes.
So for them to show up regularly, even if they first due to some force they come to the sessions regularly,
Yes.
उसमें resistance नहीं दिखा.
Yeah.
Are there any specific ways the person may put forth resistance in order to not see the pain or resolve this? And if so, उस resistance का हम कैसे, how do we work with that?
I'm not terribly sure as to what actually you're asking. Are you asking that how can we facilitate their continued attendance? Or are you saying if they try to drop out and not show irregular attendance, how can we handle it?
Okay. Attendance is one aspect of it.
Okay.
I'm saying that a person who loads themselves so much,
Yes.
they might not put in the energy to address their pain or
Yes.
show up in therapy more than attendance.
Yes.
They not share, for example.
Yes, yes.
So how? So that would be resistance.
Like for example,
Yeah.
I told one of these patients I mentioned about writing a letter to her father. Now that is an issue between us. So now I am the father whom she is defying. And now you have to interpret not so much the sadism of it, but the masochism of it. Number one, that by not doing what she is being told, she is delaying her healing. Number one, why? Does she not deserve to get better? That's one line. Second, that by not doing what she is being told, she is also clinging to her suffering to insult her parents, so that she can become a walking billboard of the parents' insensitivity and cruelty. Two, three, that she is treating me as the father and giving me the finger and insulting me. These are the various things that we have to deal with, bit by bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Because the resistance is not a thing, it's a relationship.
We can take one more question if there is.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Vaishak. It's an absolute honor and a delight to be listening to you here today. If you don't mind, one of the cases that you mentioned previously about the client who was older to you and faced harassment from his brother, what was the next step?
I'm sorry, I didn't get. Which case, the man?
The client who was older to you and had suffered from harassment from his elder brother?
Yes.
Yeah. What was, if you don't mind explaining, what was the next step that you had taken for clients like that, or clients who face, who don't get the acknowledgement that they were looking for? What's your take on how you carry that forward, like the next step for that?
I'm again not clear as to what you're asking. Are you asking me how did I understand his suffering?
No, sir. No,
or
in his letter, he had clearly it was clearly mentioned that.
Oh, in the letter from the brother.
Yes.
Yes.
In the letter, it was mentioned that it was not really the response that he was looking for in that letter, was he?
No.
So, what was the next step that you had taken for the subsequent session?
That now we are at his place. Do you see? There's a difference between forgiveness and mercy. It's a very important difference. The forgiveness means I do something bad to you, you're hurt, you're rightly angry, you're rightly holding some anger, resentment, and a sense of entitlement that you should be able to mess me up. Fine. Now I come back to you 5 years later and I say, "Mujhse bahut badi galti ho gayi." Yeah, I wrote a text this morning to my friend. I said, "Yeah, I think I got myself invited over dinner. I'm terribly sorry about this. It's a weekday and you had things to do and such." And she was very nice. We are good friends. So if I apologize in a genuine, heartfelt manner, if I offer reparation, मैंने उनको लिखा कि I'll be here in December, मैं बिल्कुल ऐसा काम नहीं करूंगा दिसंबर में, आपको कोई जरूरत नहीं मुझे खाने बुलाने की. So though apology, reparation, and the other person to take a little revenge. A little revenge is good. Revenge is not all bad. Little revenge is good. So if a person, the victim takes a little revenge and the perpetrator apologizes and can offer reparation and contrition, then it can move on to bit by bit to return to the status quo, the relationship. This process is called mourning and forgiveness. Mercy, on the other hand, as distinct from forgiveness, is not two-sided, it's one-sided, where you realize that this person is so damaged. You can call it narcissistic, sociopathic, whatever, those are words. This person is so damaged that they are not capable of apologizing. But you don't want to stay stuck with this bullshit rest of your life. So you take mercy on them and you say, you know what, it's okay. Let's let it go. But with a big difference, the relationship now carries a moral superiority on one hand, and hence it cannot return to the status quo and it cannot be actually mutual. It can be cordial, but not truly mutual and not truly status quo. So, this patient tried to seek forgiveness. Now the question is, he's not getting able to, his wish to forgive the brother is not being facilitated. Now the choice is whether he'll be merciful. The question is, to whom? To whom? To the brother or to himself? Because sometimes not everything is forgivable. Don't become, some Swami. हालांकि थोड़ी शक्ल आपकी है स्वामी जैसी लेकिन कि don't, we are human beings. We can only do this much. So we have to sometimes forgive ourselves for not being forgiving. अब क्या करें? हम जालिम ही हैं, अब क्या इतने तो जालिम हम हैं.
May I follow up?
इनसे पूछिए, ये बॉस हैं.
Sure. I think so. We can take a few more questions.
Just
It's interesting.
to inculcate that feeling of mercy
Yes.
in a person is quite hard, especially considering a lot of things, considering the pain, the trauma that they have experienced. So, what are some key like thoughts that you might be able to impart for us
the
to?
main thing is how much trouble is the trauma still causing it? Is it ongoing? If something had happened 15 years ago and it's not recurring in 15 years, that's a different thing versus happening every 3 months. That's a different thing. Secondly, how much trauma it is causing you every day. How much your real life has become altered because of that. Now, for example, this man has only one sibling. Suppose he had 3 other brothers, 2 other sisters. That will be a different picture. That will be a different picture. So, there cannot be no strict dot-to-dot formulas. We have to allow it to evolve. And the issue of mercy ultimately is that he has to have mercy for himself now. And he has to forgive himself for not being forgiven and have mercy over him and himself. And purpose ultimately is to free him from this bondage. क्योंकि वो तो माफी मांगने वाला नहीं है, वो दिख गया. Has capability.
Thank you so much, sir, for these answers. One more question, or few more. There are a few questions. We'll, sir, take 2 more questions. Please pass the mic.
Good afternoon. So, what you said did give us a lot of food for thought. And one of the questions that came up in my mind very significantly is that throughout the discussion in the context of self-loathing, you spoke a lot about the impact of the role of the mother and how the mother feels about the child impacts the entire probably life of the adult. But what would you say about the role of a father with respect to self-loathing? Because I think when it comes to aspects like identity formation and attachment styles, the role of a father is very significant, specifically in the lives of daughters, if not sons equally. How does the role of an absent or neglectful father play to something like self-loathing?
The physician patient that I was talking about, the woman physician, she had a pretty nice mother. She had a pretty nice mother. And that's why she is relatively integrated personality. It was her father who was constantly critical of her. First, telling her not to eat so much. Do you really need to eat this much? Constantly asking her when she's 7, 8, 9 years old. Then she was a good student. She'll get 90 out of 100. Father says, where's the other 10? Why? You're capable of getting 100. This went on and on and on. And she was, from everything I hear and have learned in the last 2 years that I've been working with her, she was actually quite robust and a spunky little girl who collapsed within herself under the influence of the father. And the father was extremely harsh. Now, the father is known to be a grand man in society and an extremely helpful man. ये बात याद रखिए, कभी 1 लाख रुपए की जरूरत हो 1 घंटे में, किसी बहुत कमीने आदमी से मांगिए. ये गोल्डन रूल है, गोल्डन रूल है. नार्सिसिस्टिक आदमी हो, क्रूअल इंडिफरेंट आदमी हो, वो मदद करेगा आपकी, क्यों? उसको एक डिग्री चाहिए एक और. पर ढूंढ उजड़े हुए लोगों में वफा के मोती, ये खजाने तुझे मुमकिन है खराबों में मिले. शरीफ लोग मदद नहीं करते हैं. शरीफ लोग मुसीबत में काम नहीं आते हैं, बदमाश मुसीबत में काम आते हैं. ये बात याद रखिएगा. So the father is known to be an extremely generous man, very illustrious man, very helpful and such, but not to the children. He really messed her up. Yeah. Yes, it can also happen. But because the father is a later object, not a primary object, and because we are mammals, we are not papples or daddles, therefore the damage caused by a father is always less than the damage caused by mother's hatred.
All right.
But yes,
Thank
it can happen.
We'll take last question. Sahil ma'am wants to ask the question.
Uh-huh. No, they can't cause damage, of course, with self-esteem.
Sir, I'm Dr. Alisha Juneja, Assistant Professor of Psychology. Thank you so much for this wonderfully invigorating lecture. I just wanted to know why you had this line of inquiry into self-loathing particularly. What prompted you to follow this path?
That question would be legitimate if I had written only one paper in my life. I have over close to 500 papers and 115 books. So the real question is, what the hell is wrong with you? Why do you write so much? That is the real question. I wrote another paper on deadness. Then I wrote a paper complete recently on monasteries, on the nature of monasteries. Now I'm finishing a paper on anxiety right now. And then I'm going back to write a paper on museums. So I write clinical papers, I write social cultural papers. एक लिखा होता तब legitimate जवाब था.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions so patiently. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure all of us now have deeper understanding of the complexities of self-loathing, but we'll need to read more on it and practice and be observant of it a little more as well. I would now like to request Dr. S.K. Srivastav, sir, Senior Director and Vice President, AFDD, and advisor at FPO of also mentor IBHAS, to facilitate our guest speakers, sir, with a token of appreciation and gratitude from IBHAS and Amity University.
A bottle of Shiva's Regal. A bottle of Shiva's Regal. No, I'm joking.
Can I request all the dignitaries on the dais to join for the photograph as well?
जितने कपड़े लेके आया था मैं अमेरिका से, उससे कहीं ज्यादा लेके जा रहा हूँ. Thanks.
I request Dr. Deepika Srivastav, ma'am, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks and conclude the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel truly privileged to stand before you today as we bring this wonderful event to a close. On behalf of IBHAS, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, I would like to express my gratitude to all those who have contributed to the success of this event. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our respected founder president, Sir, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, Chancellor, Sir, Dr. Atul Chauhan, and our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ma'am, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, for sparing some time from your busy schedule and extending unwavering support for our initiatives in mental health awareness is deeply appreciated. I would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished and renowned speaker, Dr. Salman Akhtar. Sir, your insightful discourse on self-loathing origins, dynamics, and treatment has illuminated the importance of understanding these origins to enhance a clinician's empathy while providing therapeutic intervention. Your words have been truly inspiring, and we are all grateful for the valuable insights you have shared. Thank you so much, sir. A special acknowledgement to our Director of IBHAS, Professor Dr. Kalpana Srivastava. Ma'am, your dedication and planning have ensured that today's gathering have been enriching and impactful. I would also like to thank Dr. S.K. Srivastava, our mentor of IBHAS, for his overall support. I would like to express my further gratitude for Dr. Jayanti Pujari ma'am, the Dean of Amity Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, for her constant support and guidance. Furthermore, I would like to recognize the tireless efforts of our faculty members. Your support has been invaluable in making today's event possible. Your commitment and careful planning have played a crucial role in ensuring that today's gathering is both meaningful as well as impactful. I would like to thank IT department, media, IBHAS administrative team, Mr. Pavan Kumar, Mr. Sandeep Kumar, and Mr. Sundar Bisht for their generous support. Without them, the event wouldn't have been possible. Your contribution has been vital and we are immensely grateful. A big thank you to our audience for your presence and contribution. Your enthusiasm and energy have made this event lively and successful, and we hope that you have found it enjoyable and enriching. Lastly, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone, those who have contributed to make this event a successful ending. Once again, thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day ahead.
Thank you, everybody. Can I request all the audience to have like one standing applause for Sir? I think it's just my saying, but it's from everybody's heart that kind of comes around. Thank you, one and all. I'll request the participants in the hall to kindly be here and allow us to move out and then maybe move out so that there is not much commotion. Can I just request that much? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.